Coming up on our newscast, the nation's military plans to establish a new defense system to respond to North Korea's continued missile provocation. The defense chief inspected an army unit and instructed officers to employ ultra-precision missiles for an immediate response in case of a contingency. President Vladimir Putin moves to tighten his grip on contested areas of Ukraine. The Russian leader declared martial law in 4 regions Moscow claimed to have annexed last month. With the World Cup less than a month away, top footballers conduct final preparations. The Taegeuk Warriors will be competing in Group H against the powerhouses including Portugal and Uruguay. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. South Korea aims to develop new defense systems to deal with Pyongyang's missile and artillery threats. On Thursday, the nation's military revealed in an annual parliamentary audit report that it will push to acquire a second low-altitude missile defense system. It is designed to shoot down the regime's new ballistic missiles, including KN-23s and KN-24s, as well as super-large artillery rockets. Also, by reforming the existing Army Research Center for Future and Innovation, it will create a specialized facility called the Combat Capability Development Command. This comes amid heightened regional tensions and the reclusive state's continued provocations. As tensions rise on the peninsula, top military officers of South Korea and the U.S. met in Washington and agreed on the importance of cooperation in defense and security. Seoul's JCS chair Kim Seung-kyum and his American counterpart met at the Pentagon on Wednesday local time. The two sides exchanged views on the security situation on the peninsula and discussed ways to counter Pyongyang's nuclear and missile threats as the regime continues carrying out provocations. General Mark Milley reaffirmed America's commitment to defend South Korea and provide extended deterrence. South Korea is actively consulting with the EU about a UN resolution draft for Pyongyang's human rights abuses. The EU has reportedly begun discussions with major countries, and Seoul is also participating in the process. A foreign ministry official said the government is also considering co-proposing the resolution and emphasized the issue must be dealt with using principles-based measures. The EU draft resolution will be submitted to the UN's third committee prior to reaching the UN Human Rights Council sometime in December for adoption. Putin is reorganizing the leadership of his invasion of Ukraine. In a decree, the Russian leader imposed martial law in 4 regions Moscow claims to have annexed. So far, continued attacks led to Ukraine losing some 40% of its power-generating capacity. Ji-young has the latest.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree on Wednesday declaring martial law in 4 Ukrainian regions that Moscow last month claimed as its own territory. The 4 regions that Kremlin claims to be annexed are Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. In televised remarks to members of his Security Council, President Putin also told the government to form a special coordinating council to boost the invasion forces.
The tasks of the special military operation are handled not only by the relevant security agencies, but also by the entire system of state administration. There is a need to continue working to improve coordination. I'm instructing the government to draft a presidential decree on the creation of a special coordination council.
This follows a series of battlefield defeats for Russia, though a Ukrainian official said the decree would not change anything. Meanwhile, as Russian missiles and drones hit Ukraine's power plants, a Ukrainian energy official said on Wednesday that the nation has lost at least 40% of its power-generating capacity. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the government is getting ready for all kinds of scenarios ahead of winter.
We proceed from the assumption that Russian terror will be directed at energy facilities until, with the help of our partners, we are able to shoot down 100% of enemy missiles and drones.
The country's electric utility warned on Thursday that there could be rolling outages lasting up to 4 hours, urging Ukrainians to charge their electrical devices in preparation. Ji-young, Arirang News.
The U.S. ambassador to Seoul reiterated that Washington remains fully committed to enhancing economic ties with South Korea. At the 34th meeting of the Korea-U.S. Business Council, Philip Goldberg said the Biden administration is aware of the concerns over the Inflation Reduction Act. He highlighted that bilateral business ties are strong and that America is open to consultative dialogue on the issue. According to Seoul's Trade Ministry, the two sides decided to continue talks on the matter after Minister An Deok-gun held a phone with U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai. President Yoon Suk-yeol will hold next Thursday's 11th emergency meeting on economic affairs in a public format open to the press, which could mean it'll be televised live. The 90-minute session will involve relevant ministers discussing ways to address various risks while seeking out new sources of growth and bolstering exports. According to the top office, the aim is to lay out Yoon's vision for economic tasks and seek concerted efforts by the people to overcome the current crises. While the disruption to Kakao services over the weekend caused major inconveniences, some office workers were actually relieved. This is because they were freed from being hassled by employers during the off days. Choi Min-jung sheds light on the issue of companies sending work messages to employees regardless of working hours.
South Korea's largest mobile chat app, KakaoTalk, serves as a key communication channel not only in people's private lives but also at work. Following Kakao's 10-hour-long shutdown over the weekend, office workers had mixed reactions.
It was a bit of an inconvenience because we weren't able to use KakaoTalk to process and send documents.
However, there were others who said they were able to spend the weekend in peace.
There were definitely some things that were an inconvenience, but I actually felt a sense of freedom and was at ease.
I was happy that I didn't receive any messages from work. I wish my company would just leave me be.
4 in 5 people in South Korea have been sent work-related messages outside of their working hours. This shows how normal it has become for people to talk about work even when they aren't actually there. In fact, people in South Korea have long debated this issue. Last month, a bill was proposed to the National Assembly about restricting work-related instructions outside of work hours. This prohibits communication through all mediums such as phone calls, emails, text messages, and social media. If violated, companies would have to pay a fine close to $3,500. Although some companies have banned sending messages after 10 p.m., many employees are still under stress as rules are still not widely implemented.
You have to set limits because actual working hours can become even longer because of emails and other digital forms of communication.
However, experts do say imposing a uniform regulation can create side effects, as standards for companies are different depending on the industry or region. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
New data suggests that by the middle of this century, about half of all households in the country will be headed by senior citizens. Experts believe for some communities this will be unsustainable and people may end up vacating some small towns and villages entirely. Shin Jae-byuk explains further.
In less than 30 years, according to Statistics Korea, nearly half of all households in South Korea will be headed by people older than 65. A report from the agency projects that by 2050, what it calls elderly households will make up 49.8% of the total, which is more than double the figure in 2020. Statistics Korea attributes this largely to the country's low birth rate and longer life expectancies. By region, the highest proportion of elderly households will be found in the southern provinces of Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsangbuk-do at 60%. An expert says this could make some small villages unsustainable and cause them to disappear entirely.
Right now, the population is shrinking and rapidly aging. Small districts and villages in rural areas may find it challenging to maintain their autonomy.
As for the average size of households by 2050, they will have fewer than 2 people in almost every region of the country, including Seoul. The most common type of household will be those made up of just one person at almost 40%. An official from Statistics Korea says there are several factors leading to these changes in family patterns.
The number of single-member households is increasing. And though the population is shrinking, the rise in the number of people who are unmarried, divorced, or bereaved means there's actually an increase in the number of households because the household unit is smaller.
The second most common type of household by 2050 will be couples without children, accounting for almost a quarter. They will have overtaken couples with children at 17%. 신새벽 아리랑 뉴스.
The 2022 Qatar World Cup is less than a month away. Team South Korea is looking to make a strong comeback. The immediate goal is to reach the knockout stage or the Sweet 16 for the first time since the year 2010. Han Sung-woo provides a glimpse of what to expect.
The countdown has begun for arguably the world's greatest sporting event. The FIFA World Cup is now just a month away, with the world's top footballers from 32 national squads now undergoing final preparations before stepping onto the pitch in Qatar. South Korea's Taegeuk Warriors, led by Portuguese head coach Paulo Bento and captained by Tottenham Hotspur star Son Heung-min, will be competing in Group H against Portugal, Uruguay, and Ghana, starting with Uruguay on November 24th. Team Korea's goal for now? Breaking into the round of 16 at a World Cup held overseas for the second time in the nation's history, after 2010 in South Africa. Their final 26-man squad will be announced 2 days before the team flies to Qatar on the 14th of next month. This year's World Cup is the first to be held in the Middle East and the second in Asia, after the 2002 tournament in South Korea and Japan, where the Taegeuk Warriors made it to the semifinals. It will also be the first edition to take place in the winter, in consideration of the host nation's extreme summer heat. According to organizers, just under 2.9 million tickets had been sold as of Wednesday, leaving only about 210,000 up for grabs. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
The Sacheon Airshow is back for the first time in 3 years. It's new and improved, displaying a wide range of aircraft and attractions, including the KF-21 fighter jet prototype. Kim Jung-sil takes us closer to the action.
Made in Korea. From helicopter to trainer aircraft and the first ever fighter jet, this year's Sacheon Airshow showcased an array of Korean-made aircraft. LAH, a light-armed helicopter, the KT-1, a basic training aircraft, and the T-50, an advanced jet trainer, were on display. Australia's Paul Bennett Airshow team came to congratulate Sacheon Airshow's comeback after a 3-year hiatus. The team drew its signature circles in the sky, pleasing the crowd. One of the highlights that many people came for is the first South Korean fighter jet, the KF-21's prototype model.
Behind me is the prototype of the KF-21 on display to the public for the first time. The 4.5 generation fighter jet is being developed by Korea Aerospace Industries with homegrown South Korean technology. Now the Kai plans to complete the jet by 2026.
A fifth-generation fighter jet would be a stealth jet. The KF-21 isn't completely fifth generation. It's close to it, so we call it 4.5 generation.
The official said the KF-21 will continue to be developed so that one day it can be a fifth-generation fighter jet. Visitors were thrilled to see the KF-21 with their own eyes.
When I visit the site and see the prototype, I'm really moved. I think it shows how our national defense is getting better.
Another official said it's important to develop aircraft with homegrown technology in order to enhance self-defense capability. He said it's possible some countries may not be able to supply South Korea with the parts it needs when it needs them. The official added that with South Korea making its own aircraft, the country doesn't need to spend money overseas, which benefits the domestic economy. The finale of the morning show was South Korea's proud Air Force aerobatic team, the Black Eagles. Many pilots at the show said the Black Eagles team consists of only top elite Air Force pilots and that their skills are extremely difficult to perform. filled with aircraft that we don't normally get to see. Sacheon Airshow runs until Sunday. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News, Sacheon.
South Korea's biggest theme park is all geared up for Halloween. The attraction is actually designed by an Emmy-winning art director who created the set for Squid Game. Kim Hyun-sung provides a sneak peek of how gruesome things can get in Everland.
Everland is dolled up in orange. The South Korean theme park located in Yongin, Gyeonggi-do province has been getting ready for Halloween. The park's garden is filled with marigold flowers, but the main Halloween attraction is Blood City, a place not for the faint-hearted. This is Blood City, a city infested with zombies. Visitors have to wear a disguise just like the one that I'm wearing right now and mix in with the other zombies to safely escape this Blood City fate. The story behind this attraction is that Dark X, the main villain, has let all the zombies loose. Visitors have to escape to safety by riding the Express 199 roller coaster. Blood City was designed by Emmy-winning art director Taegeuk, who also designed the set of Squid Game.
The director said that she wanted to make a new space that we couldn't see in any theme park, so people could feel the fear rather than see it directly. She wanted to create a scary atmosphere that could engulf people.
So before visitors ride the train out of the zombie nightmare, there's plenty to see and enjoy. Actual trains remodeled into makeup rooms and a haunted house horror maze. There are also zombie appearances and shows every day, so it really feels like being in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. And with no more social distancing, Everland staff are expecting double the number of visitors they saw in recent years.
There's so much to see, so it's interesting. There are still some things we haven't seen yet, but we're going to go later and take a lot of pictures.
I usually don't wear costumes, and this is my first time. I'm so excited to see the zombies later, and I'm having a great time because there's so much to see.
If you wear a costume and a disguise when you come here, it's certainly more fun.
Halloween festivities at Everland will run until November 20th. So anyone looking for a good scare this fall, why not get right into the middle of a real-life zombie flick? Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now. Chrysanthemums. They represent the arrival of fall. While there's year-long demand for the white flowers, most cultivated in Korea have been of foreign origin. Now, local researchers are seeking to change that trend. Yoon zooms in on the developments.
This is the largest wholesale flower market in South Korea. All sorts of flowers are sold throughout the year based on the seasons and popular occasions. Making up 70% of the domestic market is the white chrysanthemum, most of which have Japanese origin. Efforts to promote white flowers of Korean origin has brought rise to the baekgang and baekma. They have very similar appearances to the Japanese chrysanthemum, but last longer and have a longer storage period. With more distributors and consumers learning about the baekgang and baekma, demand and market share are increasing very quickly.
This flower is firmer and keeps its shape well, which makes it easier to store and distribute. It's better in many ways.
A strong characteristic of the Korean chrysanthemum is that they have a short cultivation period and are resistant to pests. This makes them easy to grow and helps farmers reduce cultivation costs by up to 30%, meaning more profit.
There's higher demand among farmers because it's resistant to pests and we get a better price for them.
Feedback from both consumers and distribution experts show higher preferences and a willingness to repurchase local chrysanthemums.
Consumers prefer these flowers, and we can expand both domestic demand and exports. We'll continue research on breeding to make our flowers more competitive.
The Rural Development Administration is working on promoting local horticulture, as well as providing support for farmers in order to expand the cultivation of Korean chrysanthemums to meet the demands of both domestic and foreign markets. Growing international popularity for the baekgang and baekma may make them the next item on the Korean wave. Yoon, Arirang News.
Some local farmers have incorporated the famous saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," into how they raise their produce, using predatory insects to fend off harmful pests from approaching their crops. Jo Sang-min has the full story.
Mr. Song owns this melon farm and has been growing the fruit for more than 2 decades. Here he has a container full of tomato bugs and gently spreads them on each of the melon leaves. According to him, the bugs are predatory insects for pests like whiteflies and help protect his crops.
You get to see pests while taking care of crops, and you can succeed if you use their predators against them.
Mr. Song says timing is important when releasing the predatory insects. Because they prevent other bugs from eating away at the harvest or spreading bacteria, using them helps reduce the use of pesticides and other chemicals. Consequently, it reduces costs drastically and the fruits can grow eco-friendly and healthier. Mr. Hong is another farmer using a similar technique to grow his chilies. Although he is just into his 2nd year of growing them, he says predatory insects were efficient in preventing the likes of aphids, thrips, and tobacco budworms.
I learned that using the predatory insects sharply reduces labor and has been very helpful in boosting profits.
According to the Rural Development Administration, using insects in farming showed a 10 to 18% increase in yields and profits during a test conducted last year. The agency is working with local provinces to develop new ways to utilize these predatory insects. Jo Sang-min, Arirang News.
Mild conditions are forecast to continue for the daytime. For the time being, maximum temperatures will hover around the seasonal norms in Seoul, with highs nearing 19 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Morning lows will stay in single figures, though, creating big contrast in daily temperatures. That also goes for other regions as well, such as Taecheon and Changsu. Make sure to dress in layers. Despite the rise in daytime temperatures, we're seeing stagnant atmospheric conditions across western regions. Because the air is not circulating very well, this will lead to an accumulation of fine dust particles. For southern Gyeonggi-do and Chungcheongnam-do provinces, air quality will stand in the bad category tomorrow. Fine dust concentrations will rise temporarily for the Seoul metropolitan area, Chungcheongbuk-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces. Mostly cloudy skies are expected for the morning. Seoul and Gwangju will be starting off at 9 degrees. And daily highs in Seoul will be reaching 19. Busan and Jeju will be warm at 22 degrees. Conditions will stay warm until this Saturday, with highs hovering around the seasonal norms. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
These are the stories we're following at this hour. From all of us here at Arirang News, thank you for watching.